You are listening to the Beyond the Pain podcast, where Dr. Emil Tompkins and his guests guide you through the latest techniques to relieve your pain and learn how to fuel, move, and think for lifetime wellness.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Beyond Pain Relief podcast. I thank you so much for joining us. And the first thing we're going to do is share a story with you. We're talking today about children and chiropractic. So let's go ahead and get started. Our oldest son definitely had birth trauma. 36-hour labor. His head got hung up on my pelvis and he couldn't drop. Vacuum assist delivery. He actually had head trauma and a huge hematoma. He cried and screamed all his waking hours. I tracked it, and he was sleeping less than 10 hours a day. He was gassy, spitting up, tummy upset, reflux, and we took way too long to bring him to Dr. Tompkins because he cried and screamed non-stop, and we couldn't hardly leave the house. He was 6 weeks old at his first adjustment, cried that afternoon, had a seemingly normal night, but the next morning, he slept in, woke up, and smiled at me. He wasn't crying. He ate well and took naps and was smiling and cooing and gurgling. I didn't know what to do with him. I didn't know how to entertain him or anything. He had slept 14 total hours that day. By the next week, he averaged 16, and in 3 weeks, he was sleeping through the night. He's been a great sleeper ever since. When my second baby was born, the delivery went much better, partly because her head was 3 inches smaller than her brother's, but we still wasted no time and had her first adjustment at 9 days old. She's always been a fantastic sleeper. And of course, adjustments seem to help me recover from childbirth too. My pelvis and lower back, my neck, and numbness in my hands due to carpal tunnel. Dr. Tompkins fixed me right up. Hey guys, we're going to be talking today about your children's health. Now, I tell you that story because our children's health is dependent on a number of things, and one is how we handle the 3 T's, and that's what our podcast is going to be about, the 3 T's today: traumas, toxins, and thoughts. Chiropractic is concerned with the preservation and restoration in health and giving special attention to spinal adjustments. It's a safe, effective, natural, holistic method and may be helpful in boosting your child's healthy growth and development. Your child's health is determined by abundance of influences: genetics, mom's prenatal health, childbirth itself, the environment, the behavior and attitude of other people around. There are lots of different things that will come together to affect your child's health. And so what we talk about are 3 specific categories, the 3 T's: traumas, toxins, and thoughts. These are the influences that control your child's health. Trauma. There's lots of physical activity that can place trauma to the body: the bones, the joints, muscles of kids, the nervous system, the differing fetal positions in utero, some of which can cause problematic and prolonged labor, is the earliest problem that a child's growing spine faces. The physical strain that a baby bears during childbirth, all those stretching and pulling and things that happen in order to get baby through the birth canal, all of them are significant challenges to a growing vertebra right away at birth. Trauma is a problem that we see. And then it can refer to any of the physical activities that kids do at a very young age, developing, learning to hold the head up, learning to crawl, learning to run. How many times does a baby fall when they learn how to walk? Learning to touch and understand every little thing around them. We're prone to accidents that can create trauma. A child's body, just like the rest of our bodies, have an amazingly natural way of healing itself. However, unless something is done to heal these injuries, the body can only maybe attempt to stabilize and protect itself from further injury. However, what happens is when you have these injuries and we don't actually correct it, sometimes the body will mold itself around that injured area, creating a problem that can be more long-standing, and we don't need that. It's one reason why chiropractic adjustments, even in kids, is incredibly necessary. The next area we'll talk about is toxins. Toxins enter a child's body through what we eat, what we drink, what we breathe. Anything that we come in contact with can fall in that category. Not just pollution in the air, but anything the body filters out. Smoke, cleaning agents, paint adhesive, perfume, all sorts of things from what we eat. If we're eating things that our body is sensitive to or allergic to, or toxins that can come in genetically modified foods, processed foods, junk foods, these are all things that can be toxic to our kids. And even though our bodies have ways of filtering toxins out, you're not going to be healthy if your body's overrun with these toxins. Key to promoting good health is to make sure you're limiting the amount of toxins that your child is experiencing. The last T, thoughts. We talked about trauma, we've talked about toxins, let's talk about thoughts. This refers to your child's psychological health. It's brought about by lots of different processes. And when we talk about thoughts, I mean stress. When you're under stress, your body goes through all sorts of different chemical and physiological reactions that can have a negative effect on your health and a negative effect on your spine and nervous system. A child's level of stress can be determined by how well they progress through normal psychological development. Some things that influence a child's level of stress can be things like separation from significant others, even things like TV time and the things they're exposed to, relationships and the complexities of relationships, parents, children, friends, freedom, whether there's freedom to ask questions and challenge their environment, or the attitude and behavior of people around them. Those things can support a child's psychology or create more stress. These influences are very complicated. However, it's very important to make sure that we understand and recognize how that can have an effect on their health and take steps in order to improve that. If we do, we're going to be healthier. The 3 T's are influences that determine a child's health. It's why we're committed to looking at and addressing each of these areas when taking care of your child. At our office, we address physical stresses by correcting spinal imbalances, teaching exercises to allow your body to handle those physical stresses. Nutrition counseling allows us to work on improving the chemical stress your child is under and your entire family in general. And while emotional stress levels are different in kids than that of their parents, understanding how stress affects our children's health will assist you in better understanding the best course of action in improving your child's health. Wellness chiropractic visits can help your child have the right conditions to encourage, restore, and preserve healthy growth, development, and well-being. Let's talk for a minute about some common conditions that children deal with that benefit from chiropractic care. Guys, developmental milestones are markers that can indicate that your child is on track in terms of social and emotional development. Cognitive development, motor development, speech and language development. All these things happen, these milestones that we get really excited about. It's very important that we guide your family, your child through these milestones, making sure that child is developing the way that he's supposed to. And so the need for chiropractic care is very vital during these stages. Children can be brought to a chiropractor. Gosh, our earliest child was adjusted at 1 or 2 days old. And it's very important to be able to deal with some of those stresses as early as we can. So here's a list of conditions that children can benefit from through chiropractic care. Breastfeeding difficulty. One, breastfeeding is by far the most healthy choice, but the ability to successfully breastfeed is vitally important. It can have lifelong consequences for baby's health. So if a baby's having difficulty breastfeeding, being seen by a chiropractor to assess the mouth, to assess the skull, the hard palate, make sure everything's functioning well there. Sometimes there's tongue tie, and if there's a tongue tie, initially we can do certain exercises and balancing the upper cervical part of the spine, and sometimes that helps. Sometimes they go in there and do a certain kind of surgery for that tongue tie, and then we step in and start helping to make some changes after that. We try to avoid surgery whenever possible, but sometimes after surgery, chiropractic can make a big difference in babies with tongue tie and breastfeeding difficulties. Colic and digestive problems. Colic affects nearly 25% of all infants. Symptoms are generally characterized by constant and excessive crying, usually starting about the same time each day, but otherwise the infant is fairly healthy. Chiropractic adjustments help with colic. Sleep problems. They're often a part of a more general condition of irritable and colicky babies. Gentle adjustments might be needed to reduce stiffness and pain and of colic to promote a longer and peaceful sleep. Actually, the most common side effect of a baby's first adjustment is that they fall asleep and sleep longer than they've slept before. Allergies in children are fairly common, and they often present with long-term problems. And chiropractic adjustments in certain upper cervical areas have been shown to be able to help kids with allergies. Bedwetting. There are certain nerves that come out of the lower lumbar spine that travel to the bladder, and they can affect function to the bladder. And so if we can improve that communication pathway between the brain and the bladder, then we can see changes in bedwetting. Developmental delays. There's certain ways, sensory activities and primitive reflexes that tend to, in some kids, lead to developmental delays. If you can address that at an early age, sometimes you can make a difference, and chiropractors do that. Ear infections. One of the most common reasons people get adjusted, kids get adjusted, is because of ear infections. The nose and the ear are connected through the eustachian tube, which in children are shorter, more horizontal, and less rigid. Because of this, infections find it easy to go from the nose to the ear and vice versa. So there's a muscle that's connected to the upper cervical part of the spine that if that area of the spine is out of balance, it will keep that eustachian tube closed so fluid doesn't travel the way that it needs to, leading to infections. Chiropractic adjustments in that upper cervical part of the spine can affect ear infections. Falls and other injuries incurred during play. Gosh, you know how kids are. Wild, violent, fun, but they're very injury and accident prone. Chiropractic adjustments help kids to be able to heal from those injuries. Torticollis, an issue where you're kind of carrying the head off to one side. There's a specific misalignment in the spine and sometimes injury to the sternocleidomastoid muscle, a muscle that connects the skull to the front of the sternum, causes the head to be shifted to one side. These types of conditions respond very well to chiropractic care. Guys, there are a lot of different conditions and issues that people can experience that have been shown to respond with chiropractic. Just remember, the big key is the brain controls everything. The brain sends messages down the spinal cord out to all the nerves, to every single part of the body. And as long as that pathway is clear, our body functions well. But different things happen that cause those, that can cause pressure on those nerves. Maybe the spine moves out of position, put some slight pressure on the nerves. Maybe we're under that physical stress that can move the spine out of position. Maybe we have chemical stress that causes some of these chemical reactions, leading to more inflammation, leading to more problems in those nerves. Maybe we have emotional stress causing tightness in the muscles to help put pressure on those nerves. There are a lot of different ways that we can have this stress that can affect your body's health. Now, the important thing to remember that we can't forget is, one, we want to make sure that the spine's in the right position so we've relieved pressure off of those nerves so the brain can communicate with the body. But one of the other big benefits of getting adjusted is those nerves that are in, especially that upper cervical part of the spine, they actually send feedback back into the brain. It has been shown that chiropractic adjustments will have an effect not only on the way your child feels, but on the way your child's brain functions, on the way your brain functions, on the way you deal with stress. Your adjustment has such a huge impact on your health, and don't forget that. So we've talked about the 3 T's. I hope that you've gotten something out of today. Address those 3 T's in your own life, address those 3 T's in your child's life, and you're going to experience greater health. Hey guys, I'm Dr. Emil Tompkins. I hope you have a fantastic day, and we'll look forward to seeing you soon.
Hey guys, it's Dr. Emil Tompkins. Many people fail to make a change in their health until things are drastic, until we've gone so far that it's so challenging to make that change, or we feel like it's almost too late, and then we're much more reluctant to make those changes in our health. This is a problem, and it needs to change. It needs to stop. When you find something that has an opportunity to make a difference in your health or in the health of someone around you, I invite you to take that opportunity to make that change for yourself or for someone you know. So I have a favor to ask of you. If you've listened to this podcast and you feel like there's something here that you think will benefit someone that you know, I invite you to share that podcast with them. There's a share link on the bottom of the screen. I want you to click that share button to share this with others. Give others the opportunity to experience the Beyond Pain Relief podcast. Share that with others. Make a difference in the health of someone around you. And I thank you so much for doing that. This is Dr. Emil Tompkins. Thank you for joining us on the Beyond Pain Relief podcast. And thank you for making a difference in the lives of the people around you. Have a great day.
You are listening to the Beyond the Pain podcast, where Dr. Emil Tompkins and his guests guide you through the latest techniques to relieve your pain and learn how to fuel, move, and think for lifetime wellness.